For those of us getting started with inbound, it can often help to hear the stories of other businesses who have been through the journey and are now experiencing the rewards that inbound can bring to their business. In this episode of Solving Inbound, we'll tell the journey of Furniture Fair, a family-owned furniture business who has become one of the premier voices in their industry, with special guest, their marketing director at Furniture Fair, Craig Daniels. Let's do it. Welcome back to another episode of Solving Inbound. My name is Connor Delaney, joined by John Becker, as well as our special guest, Craig Daniels. Craig, welcome to Solving Inbound.
Well, thank you for having me, Connor and John. It's a pleasure, and I'm excited to dive in here.
Yeah, we're going to have a really fun conversation. You know, Furniture Fair's done a lot. They've worked with us, but your team has really grown and it really exploded in terms of results too. So this journey is going to be really fun to dive into. But Craig, before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what Furniture Fair does and what you specifically do there. So fill us in a little bit.
Yeah, so we are a family-owned and operated retail store, primarily furniture and mattress and basically anything home furnishings, based out of Cincinnati, Dayton, and Louisville. Been in business for 59 years now. As you previously mentioned, I am the marketing director here, so making sure we stay afloat with all things advertising.
Something I love that we talked about before we started recording, Craig, is that tell us a little bit about the makeup of your company, because you have a gigantic sales team compared to a pretty small marketing team, and I think that's probably familiar for a lot of our listeners.
Yeah, so we are very unique. We have over 150 salespeople here at Furniture Fair, which has probably been the toughest part of rolling out any type of new initiative or goals. Luckily, we've got a team of 5 here in the marketing department, and they're what helps us keep chugging along.
So Craig, I'm doing the math on the side. So for every marketing person, you have at least 30 salespeople, right?
Yes.
That's a fun yeah. ratio right there.
Yeah. It kind of brings you back to high school and being a teacher and teaching 30 kids.
Right.
How does that always go?
Perfectly, super smooth.
Yeah. So back us up and talk us through how at Furniture Fair, you became aware of inbound, you started on inbound, and those early days, what was it like?
So we were fortunate enough to have the opportunity to see Marcus live. The February right before COVID and everything shut down, we were at a conference, and Marcus was one of the keynote speakers. And just from the get-go, myself and a few others who were attending the conference saw exactly what he was preaching and fell in love with the whole idea of inbound and content marketing.
So just so for all our audience, that's Marcus Sheridan, author of They Ask You Answer, who has become really a guru of inbound and content marketing. He is a co-owner at Impact, and we are huge evangelists and very proud of his messaging. And we know that a lot of the companies we work with, that's an important first step. Hearing Marcus, seeing his vision. So what about what he said really resonated with you and the other members of your company?
Well, the biggest thing is that it was different from what we were currently doing, the traditional mediums, but also what he was saying wasn't rocket science. I mean, it's to its most simplest form, it's answering your customers' most, desired questions. And we saw doing it through, written format as well as video format that, that's something we could handle, and that's something that we could implement into our relationship-based selling techniques.
Craig, were you doing any kind of inbound before that? Were you working with any other agencies? Were you trying to do it yourself? Or was this really that aha, like, I've never heard of this, but whatever it is, I need to be doing that now?
So the stuff we were doing before were with local TV stations. It was building fluff pieces, making maybe one article a month. And once we were at that conference, we did have that aha moment of, wow, we have been doing this wrong for a couple of years now and have been wasting so much money.
So
Right.
was it a complete turnover where you stopped what you were doing and went all in, or was it kind of a more gradual shift?
No, we dove head first all the way in, stopped what we were doing as far as some of that other content pieces, and we hired a content writer, we hired a videographer, and jumped right in.
So what did that process of getting everyone bought in? Obviously, you send people to a conference, everyone says, "Wow, that sounds amazing," and you get back. How was your team's perception as they got started with inbound and they ask you answer in particular?
So we were fortunate that our company president was there in attendance at the conference. So as we all know, everything starts top down, and having his buy-in was, you know, was huge for us. Obviously, when you have over 300 employees and 150 salespeople, getting that buy-in is still ever going. We ongoing. So it was definitely a struggle to start, but we're getting there.
Building momentum.
Yes,
momentum.
that's right.
I think something that companies often balk at is bringing on hiring new talent, building a marketing team, hiring a content manager, hiring a videographer. I think we hear a lot of, I'll just give it to Craig to do it. Yeah, like he'll write. Talk about why that was such an important piece, having new employees who are dedicated fully to this initiative.
Knowing that you can't, the word I want to use, knowing you can't half-ass it, really stuck in from the very get-go. We didn't want to just dip our toe into this. We didn't want to have Joe Schmo from the sales floor come in and start doing this, or if from another department. We needed two people that this is what they specialize in, and ownership saw that, and we saw that, and honestly, that's what helped us get off the ground as quickly as we did.
Greg, what were some of the initial results as these two brand new roles come in? When did you start to see that, hey, this thing is actually working now too?
It took some time. We obviously, we started with Marcus and Impact back in June of 2020, once we came back from the pandemic. And, probably 3 to 6 months down the road is when we really started to see that this was working. The biggest indicator was website traffic. We probably doubled our website traffic within a year's time.
Jeez. Well, first off, congrats. And it's something that we hear so often is you're not going to get those immediate results, but going into inbound, and I'm sure that you and your team knew this, was inbound's that long game. You're playing the long term, you're building something that's going to be sustainable over time. It's not those immediate wins until the bank runs out and then you've got to go either find more money or find a new way to do it. Inbound's really about investing up front and making those and getting those long-term results, which it sounds like you've really started to hit on too.
Yeah, no, patience. That's the biggest thing you've got to have with it, and know that it will come. It's just going to take some time.
And I think also it's a long game that you're playing with customers too. Building trust and building relationships doesn't happen immediately. It's a lot easier to go in for the hard sale and to close more people, but you're going to alienate people, turn people off, and content builds relationships and builds trust, which is a hugely valuable commodity, but it's slow to build.
Exactly. But I mean, just from the get-go, we saw how well it worked with our selling process. I mean, we are not of the mind of a transactional business. We don't want you to just come in here, spend 10 minutes here, buy something, leave. We don't want buyer's remorse. We want to make sure every interaction you have with us is a successful one, not just in our pocketbooks, but how you feel about your purchase. And content helps us further tell that story and build those relationships and make sure that the customer knows exactly what they're getting with us.
Right. Has there been any story, you bring up the sales team, and I think that's a huge piece of this too, as we look at the long-term benefits of this, is working in not just marketing's creating all this great content, but sales begins to use that content and creating the sales enablement content. Is there a story or an individual moment that you can think of where your sales team was really working with it and it's shining through now?
Yeah. Luckily, there's a couple instances, and we started assignment selling officially back in March of 2021. And about 3 months later, it just took off. One great story we have it is a salesperson at one of our locations. She was, middle of the road, average salesperson. And all of a sudden, her manager got her to buy into assignment selling, utilizing the content to send your customers, post and pre-purchase or visit, and as well as one-to-one Vidyard videos. Awesome. And she went from, again, middle of the pack all the way up to, top 3 every month, as well as, and the bigger story beyond that is that she is in the mattress category. She's a mattress specialist, and typically they have the fewest amount of ups. Not always going to be in that top 3 for a store, which is even more icing on the cake, if you will.
Right. It's unbelievable, and that's even cooler to see that it's not a main category. If I were to guess, what couches maybe living room, what's that look like as like your main top categories versus
so that? At Furniture Fair we have 2 specialists. You've got furniture specialist and mattress specialist. And furniture obviously is going to get the bulk because you have living room, bedroom, dining, and so forth.
Right. Got it.
So Craig, like looking back on this now, what has going all in on They Ask You Answer and inbound marketing, what has it allowed you to do as a company? Have you grown? Have you expanded your offerings? Have you set your sights on new horizons because you have all of this, like you said, website traffic? You have all of these referrals and happy customers. What's next?
Well, the biggest thing is now that we're getting all this website traffic, it's getting better with our online conversions. It's focusing more on our website. And the beauty of this is all of our initiatives with content and inbound marketing. It's led ownership to see, hey, wow, we need to focus on online as if it's a store. Because it is. I mean, it's the gateway, it's the front door to your brand, and 80 to 90% of your customers are going there first. So it's really allowing us to invest more to our website.
And I have to imagine the timing works out spectacularly. Obviously, we're not going to thank COVID for anything, but the fact that it probably made it harder for people to go out to your store as you're looking at creating more of an online shopping experience. I'm sure that's just opening so many doors for your business as you're growing and expanding in that way.
Exactly.
It's also, sorry, kind of jump in. It's also like, it's interesting because I think often we think of inbound marketing as closely tied to products and services that get sold over the internet. And you're talking about customers who are going to find you and learn about your products on their computers or their phones, and then come to a store and walk into a brick and mortar location and actually make a purchase. And that's like a couple extra steps that isn't always the case for successful inbound marketing companies, but it's a good reminder that it certainly can be.
Yeah. And, we're not naive. We know eventually relationship-based selling will be easier for online, but for now, online is strictly transactional. And we want to take advantage of it and utilize, again, the relationship-based selling and what content can do for that.
So do you find if we were to talk to your average salesperson who works on the floor, that a customer comes in having already read content, or a customer comes in and they're going to say, hey, you want to learn more about these mattresses, this living room set, check out our learning center, go to our website, and it becomes a multi-visit sale?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. We want as many interactions as possible. If let's say they come to our website, they like something they're looking at, they want more questions, so they schedule a consultation. we'll get a notification. We'll send out what to expect when visiting our store, or, you know, questions to ask yourself before buying X piece of furniture. From there, they'll come in. Let's say they don't buy. We'll then work on some kind of follow up to bring them back in the store, or answer any questions that, that they might have had when leaving the store. But and not just that, it's further past that. Once they buy, we want to educate them on what they just bought. You know, they bought a solid wood piece of furniture. We want to share with them how to upkeep that product.
That's a great point. I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit more about that, about how inbound marketing and they ask you answer continues past the sale into customer service, really.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just that we've got a system in place to where X amount of days after the customer purchases, we reach out to them asking, A, how's the furniture going? And B, here's some tips on how to care for your new product, or what to expect as far as, let's say, wear and tear, or, you know, anything they might need to know about what they just purchased from us.
Seems like expectation setting too. You know, that allows you to not only continue to build that relationship, because I have to imagine that, you know, this person's going to trust you more and more when you're giving them that honest truth about, hey, you know, what you just purchased, you can expect some wear and tear over time, like some do's and don'ts. But giving them that expectation ahead of time, I'm sure can lead to really great relationships. And if I were to guess, probably leads to some repeat purchases when the time comes and referrals out the door.
Yeah. Trust leads to loyalty. Loyalty goes to repeat business, and that's the circle of life.
Right. That's the flywheel. That's the endless loop. You never have to lose a customer. You just keep them around until they're ready to buy again.
That's the goal.
Love creating that experience. Craig, take us through, let's talk a little bit more about how you've built and developed your team. And I'm sure that obviously you have 150 plus salespeople. Like, there's got to be some kind of training regimen. Like, how do you make sure that everyone gets bought in, stays up to date on how to do this? Because it is pretty different than what I'm sure a typical on the floor sales rep is going through. And obviously your marketing team is only 5. I'm sure you can't just be onboarding every individual into what you do in that way.
Yeah, no. So that's the beauty of the content we're creating. Not only do they have, you know, our learning center at their disposal of learning about anything that we're writing about, but we've also adapted or partnered with a company called Osmore. And basically it's just a training regimen online that every salesperson goes through when they start, but also continued education. And we're utilizing content that we've already made, and we're making new stuff specifically for our training. And I'd say we started about 3 or 4 months ago, but it's going great. No longer are we having our salespeople in a 2 to 3 week training class. You know, they're here at corporate for maybe a couple of days for onboarding, but then they can go directly to the store and learn on the job, which is great because, you know, people learn by doing. And if you're stuck in a classroom for 3 weeks, you kind of have that big delay. So if you can do both at the same time without overwhelming them, it can lead to great things.
That's a huge change, going from a 2 to 3 week onboarding to just a handful of days, and then they're learning on the floor. That's incredible.
Yeah, we're excited. I mean, jury's still out on how it'll end up going, but so far it's all pointing up.
Right. All the right things. And it's only going to grow and you're only going to learn, right? You're 3 to 4 months in. And if the program's already winning, it's all going to be tweaking and optimizing. And, you know, I'm sure that there's some resources. So there's some resources that we can share with our audience too. Cause I'm sure as I'm thinking about what another company may be looking for, I'm sure that if there's anything that you can share, that they would love to be able to see that too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'll make sure to connect with you and our audience. Make sure you check the show notes afterwards when this episode goes live, because there's going to be some really cool opportunities. So Craig, what's next for your team? What's the future look like as you're continuing this journey with Inbound?
So it's continue to build the content that we have, but more importantly, going back and constantly refreshing and revamping our old content. I mean, when we're building 3 articles and 2 to 3 videos a week, um, we've got to make sure we're going back 3, 6, 9, 12 months later. And now not only just updating, but making sure everything we're saying is accurate. And that's been a good thing for us. We just did another refresh a couple months ago, and our learning center jumped another 2 to 3 thousand visitors a month just by doing that refresh, not adding any new content. So that's one thing I would highly recommend to anyone.
So also all the tweaks, it's little things, right? I'm assuming it's not rewrite all this content, but just a lot of little stuff.
Yeah, little stuff. Let's say you went into a new market or opened a new store, making sure you're adding that into all of your old content, as well as just updating the date and letting Google know, hey, this is still an active piece of content. It pays off in the end, trust me.
Yeah.
Sure. So Craig, as we're wrapping up, the last question or thought that's on my mind is what's one piece of advice? Your team has taken off. The results are speaking for themselves. What's one piece of advice for someone who's new on this journey that they need to know and have in their minds as they're probably where you were in February 2020 saying, we need to do this. Where do we get started?
Patience and dive full in. I mean, inbound marketing is not something you can just try or dip your toe in. Just speaking firsthand, you have to fully invest in whatever you're about to do. But also know, again, it's going to take some time and it's going to take a lot of effort, not just by the marketing department, but specifically the sales department, because you need to bridge that gap of keeping them as 2 different entities, and you need to form them as one team. And that's how you make it work, because that's what we're trying to do right now. And we're finally starting to see the payoff.
Preach, man. Get that sales team involved, and patience. Again, you mentioned at the beginning, 3 to 6 months to get the results you want. And now look at how fast it's taken off. Yeah. Amazing, Craig. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Solving Inbound. Amazing insights and amazing success from the Furniture for a team. And I'll give a round of applause around the board. Like it's an amazing story. It's so cool to see how your team has pivoted, especially in the challenging times of being in a retail brick and mortar store that's really evolved and expanded into what you are today. So amazing, amazing guest. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to our audience for listening. This has been another great episode of Solving Inbound, where we took you through the inbound journey of Furniture Fair. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.